Hi, and welcome to video 4 of our anxiety series, which is a 5-part series. We're going to start with a recap of what we've already covered in the past 3 videos. So far, we've talked about how anxiety essentially feeds on uncertainty and details. So particularly during this time, it's even more difficult to handle anxiety, given the uncertainty we're all faced with. This is why I'm encouraging you to pay attention to what you're sensing and feeling. What you're sensing in your body and what you're feeling in regard to anxiety is the first step to understanding how we want to stand up to it and build capacity to overcome it. Also, if we notice how anxiety harms us, it can really show us how we don't want to allow it to take over. And we can also learn how we can access safety. What might be standing in our way of overcoming anxiety? Those are other areas that we've talked about, and trying to understand any type of belief or blockage that might be standing in the way from us moving past the anxiety and feeling in a place of safety. We also looked at evidence to support or disprove thoughts that we're having. So really understanding if a thought that we're having and that we're stuck in has actually ever happened in the past. Is there proof to support it, or is there proof to show that actually it maybe hasn't happened in the past, so maybe we can start rethinking it and start deciding how we want to frame things in our minds. We can also consider distractions or disruptors, things that will help us, like deep breathing, like a number of different exercises that will distract us from allowing the anxiety to take hold over us. And in the last video, we talked about separating the signal from the noise. So often anxious thoughts are noise in our heads, and the noise just keeps flowing, and it's really hard to separate ourselves from it. But if we look at, for example, a signal, say you've been in an accident in the past, and you see somebody maybe pulling out of a service station really quickly, and that triggers the past accident that you had in a similar scenario. That's your signal. The noise are all of the thoughts in your head that are preventing you from gaining a place of safety and grounding in that moment. So essentially, it's being willing to be in that discomfort and really paying attention to what we're sensing, what we're feeling. And today we're going to talk a little bit about rumination, which we'll draw on more in session 5 as well. But we first want to look at what's healthy and what's unhealthy worry. So it's not unusual for people to feel concerned about preparing for a trip, for example. They might be concerned they're going to forget something. They might be concerned that there's bad weather conditions and what happens if we're not able to leave on time, or they might be just concerned about flying. That can be often healthy worries. So if we can distinguish between a healthy worry and an unhealthy worry, unhealthy may be going over and over and over different details that may never come to fruition, but they're ones that are noise in our heads that are causing us to get stuck on our thoughts. So essentially, if we work to sort of change our response to anxiety by recognizing the noise, recognizing what is evidence-based and what is not, something that is being fed too much information that we've never seen actually come to fruition in the past, and being exposed to all of these things will help to reduce the fears, will help to bring us to a place of grounding and to safety. We can't necessarily get rid of fear, but we can certainly shift our interpretation of it, not unlike the accident we talked about earlier. If we can find ourselves in a place of safety in that situation, knowing that, yes, it has happened in the past and we're scared, we can't get rid of that, but we can recognize that we're safe right now and that we've paid really close attention and it's not happening in this moment. So that's an example of recognizing that there's fear that we cannot necessarily get rid of or change, but we can change our response to it by gaining a place of safety. Sometimes we stay in the fear to change that interpretation. We stay in the sensation. We can divert our attention or create an interruption as well to modify our fear response to help the anxiety fade. So sometimes it's even a deep breathing exercise in the midst of so much noise, whereby I encourage clients to look at a frame or a mirror or something that has 4 sides that they can breathe in for 4 on one side, out for 4 on the other, and continue doing that to start interrupting the thought that's happening and bringing oxygen to our lungs. Another way may to call someone that you trust, someone that recognizes and knows what you've been going through, that can also help interrupt through conversation and through expressing how you're feeling. We can all build capacity to overcome the anxiety, such as the ways that we've already discussed during this video. We can also build on our strengths. So recognizing that we have what we need within us and harnessing that, harnessing the ability to do the deep breathing, to call on some of the things that we can do to gain a place of safety. Some people like to do yoga, some people meditate. Tapping is another great resource that I often work with my clients, using tapping as a way to bring voice to our feelings and bring down the anxiety to create more calmness. And we can understand, if we can create an understanding of the problem as well, and start trying to detach from that. And that may involve considering what makes us feel better and what makes us feel worse. For example, what makes me feel better when I am feeling a sense of anxiety is to breathe. What makes me feel worse is to spend time sitting with that thought and really ruminating over it and cycling it back and forth and around in circles. So looking at the emotion you feel, the physical sensation in those moments, and then trying to access a preferred response, which we've also talked about. Think about how close you might be to reaching your goal today. If you were to put it on a scale of 0 to 10, your anxiety today, 0 being lowest, 10 being highest, I want you to consider what your number might be. And then at the end of our series, we're going to ask that again, and just to see if you're reaching your goal to be more calm and to plan not to worry, for example, and to interrupt worry and to pay attention to it. So we hope you'll join us next time as we talk more about rumination, and that will conclude our series of anxiety and the 5-part series. And we hope you have a great week